So here we are.
Yeah. This is our first international interview.
We were talking about The Rock.
Yeah, we were talking about The Rock. Jordan Belfi.
Yeah, and how I'm not The Rock.
And you're not The Rock.
And I'm not The Rock.
But why are you
But
here,
like
Jordan?
Second best, right?
Yeah, third, fourth. I mean, what would you say? Just tell me.
How do you feel right now?
Wait. I want to say that I'm psyched to be the inaugural international version, English language version of this.
Saliendo del Cine.
He's super excited also because he's going to do the subtitles. So he's super excited about it.
You're going to do them?
Yeah, of course. I edit this shit.
So this seems pretty typical that we're at a standstill.
So you're here for a reason. Because you are promoting a movie it's called American Curious.
It's called American Curious.
And the idea of the movie is about a guy that comes to Mexico and knows the cultural things in Mexico.
Yeah, it's about a guy, he's from Chicago.
Yeah.
His name's David Green. He's a stand-up comedian, not a very good one.
Yeah.
Not a good one at all.
All right, take it easy. But he's just sort of floating in life. He's not really rooted.
He's just hanging.
He's just hanging on. He's getting by.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that can kind of relate to that experience of just sort of floating along, trying to find your way. And he's always known that he's adopted. And he just sort of figured the biological parents that he never knew died when he was born. But he gets this call that the biological mother he never knew has just died. And she's left him her restaurant, but also that she was Mexican.
Yeah.
And so he simultaneously finds out, wait a minute, I'm Mexican. So goes down to Mexico City to deal with this restaurant, and it's that journey into Mexico City and to deal with this restaurant, and that journey towards identity and roots and a sense of home. And there's, the head chef of the restaurant, and there's a love story there, and it's this cross-cultural story.
But there's also like a lot of bits that kind of, and that's what we were talking about earlier, kind of remind us how we can see Mexico differently if we see it from someone else's eyes, So the film, and that's what I told you, I think it's very nuanced because it has to do with situations. There's nothing over-explained, I think, in this film. It's like the situation shows you how someone else can see the city. By being itself, it's not a caricature. It's not, as I told you, like the Coco version of of Mexico.
Sure.
It's not. It was not shot in in Tepoztlán, in a pueblo mágico. It was shot in Mexico City, and you don't see like Paseo de la Reforma and Avenida de los Insurgentes, like the touristic places. You don't see them. It's just the experience of this guy in a small neighborhood in Mexico City, and how he has to deal with him being a Mexican, a newly born Mexican.
Yeah. Well, you just said it all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys. I think you're totally right, and I think from what I've gathered is that it's not. It's a different kind of Mexican film. Just so anybody who's watching, it's a Mexican film through and through. I happen to be the only American involved with the movie, and I think it's special and different and unique because of that. Because it's told by a Mexican director and it's a Mexican production, but with this American lead trying to find his way. So Gabby Lou, the director, was interested in portraying Mexico and her city, Mexico City, in a way that really is authentic and true to the experience most people who live in DFA have, and to the sort of textures and colors and tastes and sights and sounds that are really authentic to this city and to what life is like here, and not, like you said, the stereotypical images. And also, I think it was really important to her. I mean, she said to me early on that, like a lot of places around the world, Mexico has its own, problems, and a lot of those are, you get the images in the news in the United States. It portrays things in a particular way. They
also have the joke about the subway. That you're like, is the subway safe?
Yeah, exactly. This idea that is just being in Mexico
Yeah,
City,
you go
scary.
if you go as a
and dangerous.
tourist to New York, you get into the subway as a tourist. There, you can see like people with shopping bags on the subway, and as a New Yorker, you know that you can also get mugged.
Yeah.
You know,
It's dangerous everywhere.
Yeah, and that's the same here. I mean, it's the same thing in so much ways, but sometimes. Either, as you said, like the American news or even the Mexican news show a very dangerous Mexico, which it also has its peers also. But you get to see in this film that sometimes it's just like a stereotype that has been built upon some reality.
Exactly.
Maybe not that exaggerated, but and that's how the film works. It's not exaggerated.
Exactly. And Gabby Lou, when she was telling me that, like, there are plenty of movies and stories about immigration or violence or narcos or any of that stuff, she said that's not this movie.
Yeah.
This movie is about a whole other tapestry and fabric of the life and traditions and people that make up Mexico City, and getting to sort of document that and see that and portray that through an outsider's eyes. I mean, the movie. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys have an expression here called it's called Mexican curious, right?
Yeah.
Like something is a Mexican curious, something specifically Mexican, folkloric, cultural.
Yeah, and it catches the eye of the foreigners.
What's that?
Many colors and many
colors,
shapes.
yeah. So that's a Mexican curious, and so the title American Curious comes from a switch of that phrase.
Yeah.
Because I'm the oddity, I'm the curiosity, I'm the outsider coming here. And so that's where the title comes from.
And you're not this outsider, and that's what I would like to ask you. You're not this outsider like you're super afraid or you're super surprised. You just deal with it. I mean, I remember there's a scene like you spend the first night in this new restaurant of yours, and you're just hanging there. It's late, it's closed, and you're with your computer. And I was like, yeah, this is like a very normal situation in this case. He has nowhere to go. It's either this place where there's more people or his hotel by himself. And I think it shows these kind of characters. How important, because for example, Ana Claudia, he was in this show Soy Tu Fan, which portrayed... She was in the show, which portrayed the like Mexico City in a very authentic way also. Was it important for you to share screen with someone that deals so naturally with the city?
Oh yeah, I mean I know that Ana Claudia is well known here, and I know that people love her here, and yeah, I think what's important about having her is that in a lot of ways in the movie, she's the face of Mexico. Mm-hmm. Like she represents the city and Mexico, and my experience. Wow, we come so close sometimes to hitting somebody. I know you're in control.
I'm so far.
Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah. So I think it's important to have, because she's able to sort of to portray and to represent a wonderful quality, in representing Mexico, and she plays the head chef at the restaurant that my biological mother had left to me, and so she's trying to recreate the soup called No Me Olvides.
Yeah.
She's trying to recreate the soup that was the secret recipe of my biological mother,
and which apparently she took to the grave.
She took to the grave. Nobody knows how to make this soup. She just did it out of her own mind, and so Ana Claudia's character Sol is trying to recreate that recipe, and she can't quite get it. And so part of the plot of the movie is searching for this recipe, because I'm trying to sell the restaurant, and I can only sell it if I have the recipe.
Yeah, which is the trademark.
Which is the trademark to this famous soup called No Me Olvides. So, Ana Claudia, I think personally, is passionate about food and about cooking. I know she's one of the hosts of.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Of Top Chef?
Top Chef,
Mexican Top Chef. So, I don't know. I think she brings that quality to the movie, and she and I just really connected making the movie. And I think when you're making a movie like this, it kind of lives or dies by the chemistry. You know, particularly if there's romance and a love story involved, it kind of lives or dies by the chemistry between those leads. And it's either there or it's not.
Yeah, it's much more like the soup. If you don't have the
right ingredients,
it's gonna fail.
Way to bring that metaphor.
Wow, he's such a poet. He's such a
no,
poet.
But it's true. It's true. But it's true for a movie in general, which is you need all the right ingredients, because a movie.
And you know how to cook it. You cannot. You have to know if you slow cook it. If
exactly.
You know.
But a movie or any art, for that matter, any piece of art,
it's a base.
It's alchemy. It's like it's a little perfect, and that's why movies are so. It's entertainment, but at the same time, no one has the perfect formula to make a movie that's going to be a giant hit. Yeah. There are ingredients that people try to, they try and make it,
and they can work more than once.
Yeah, but making a movie is like you need all the right ingredients and the right amounts and the right actors and the right photographer and the right script, and it's a delicate thing. And in the relationship between Ana Claudia and I, it was there, and so we were able to really find things and make discoveries and connect, and I think we made something special.
It's so unique, and how you portray the character, and how do you approach on the movie. That I was talking to you yesterday about it.
Yeah.
I saw you in the movie, and I was like, I know this guy. I know this guy from somewhere, and all of a sudden, just hit me. You were on Entourage.
This is true.
You were and you asked me if that, knowing that thing that just took me out of the movie, and it was like, no. I was.
He just made him happier.
I was connected.
You were like, I'm meeting him.
Yeah, I was connected to the idea about, oh no, this guy is not Davis from Entourage. This guy is Jordan, and he's doing that job on the movie.
Wow, man. So that's like, as an actor, it's like the ultimate compliment, because I mean, you told me how big a fan of Entourage you were, and I always say this, I'm so grateful to have been a part of that show, because it was such a beloved show, and people had such fun with it, and people would, still like quote my lines back to me, which is so cool. But like people get excited still about talking about that show, and to get to be a part of something that was like kind of a cultural reference point, cultural touchstone is it's really cool. But what you just said is like so meaningful to me as an actor, because that role is very, very different. Adam Davies in Entourage.
He's a douche.
It's a very.
He was a douche.
I mean, I don't think so. I don't think Adam would think of himself that way. But
he loved himself that way.
Everybody on the show was a douche.
I mean,
yeah,
everyone had their thing, but
their thing.
No, but it was fun, and it was a ride you wanted to go along with. But it's the ultimate compliment, because that character is so different, Adam Davies, from David Green in American Curious. And if you slipped right into, watching my performance in this movie and didn't think about that other performance, that's the ultimate compliment, man. So thank you. No, I mean it.
Jordan, you talk about like this alchemy and putting the right ingredients, and I was thinking, how did they got to you? How did you become all of it?
Oh, yeah.
Should we answer it?
No.
How did you get to this film, and how were you like the right gringo?
The right gringo. That's how I sell myself. The right gringo.
But the just like making this little pause. In the movie, they call you gringo, and you say no, it's not gringo.
It's North American.
That's amazing, because it's not wetback. It's Mexican.
No? Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, like, but that's part of kind of what the movie explores is these stereotypes that we have of the other, and in a way, it's kind of cool to see the Mexican version of like the stereotypes that Mexicans have of Americans, and Americans have of Mexicans, and it's about kind of exploring and deconstructing those walls that we put up.
And it also
You
talks
know?
about something that we don't talk that much about in Mexico, that in a sense, maybe because we have to defend ourselves from the menace that we feel from the United States, you know, as a culture and as an economical empire, we also have built like certain stereotypes about
Sure.
Americans, you know.
Sure.
We think that all of them have money. We all think that all of them are fat, which you can prove they're not. that all of them are racist, with you can prove they're not. I hope so. So
No, that's all true. I mean, stereotypes come from every side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think what's cool about movies in general, and about this movie specifically, is that movies have the capacity of creating empathy. You know, and empathy is about understanding another. Empathy is about seeing things from their point of view, walking a little bit in their shoes, so that you understand where they're coming from, why they feel the way they, understanding someone else's point of view. And movies have this ability to do that because they tell stories and they create emotion, and you relate and you empathize with that person. And I think that's part of what's so wonderful about this movie, is that David's journey, him spending time here, he starts to understand and feel and connect, and it changes your heart and your mind when you relate to another person in that way. And that was what was, by the way, so cool about my own personal experience, is that making this movie was my first time to DF. And so
and you got to speak Spanish.
I got to speak Spanish. I still need practice, but it comes to you, and like spending time here, it's inevitable that like you kind of fall in love with the place and the people, and I love being here.
That's it.
That's it. Is that a
That's
wrap?
a perfect ending.
Wow.
No?
I mean,
What else do you want to add? I mean,
no, I mean, whatever you want.
We're moved, Jordan.
Well, thank you very much, Jordan, for being here. Where does the people can find you on Twitter, Instagram, or
Oh yeah.
how they connect and tell you about how much they love the movie?
Well, on Instagram, I'm at Jordan Belfi, which is JordanBelfi.
Okay, it will appear like
Yeah,
right.
here.
It's there.
And also on Facebook, at Jordan Belfi as well. So yeah, the movie opens in Mexico
Yeah.
this Friday, April 13th. So for all your Mexican fans watching,
You just showed it in Chicago.
we just showed it in Chicago. We showed it in San Diego. We showed it in Chicago. It's going to go to Dallas, in a lot of festivals around the United States.
How has the American and the Mexican American audiences reacted to
It's
it?
been so cool. It's such a warm, wonderful reception. Everyone seems to love it. And that's what's so cool, is that like those are audiences on the other side of the border,
Yeah.
and they are embracing it. And that's what the movie's about. And everyone seems, the movie's about so much, while simultaneously being a very personal, intimate story. And that's what I love about it. You know, it can speak to the socio-political climate that you're referencing, and it can speak to the cross-cultural thing. It can speak to love. It can speak to food and
family.
and be a love letter to the city. But it's told through an individual, personal, intimate story, and I love that balance. So yeah, the fact that like everyone seems to connect to it in some way, at some angle, on some level, whether they're, you know, on the American side of the border or the Mexican side of the border, I think that's what makes it special.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you very much for
My pleasure,
for this,
guys.
and thank you for accepting our invitation
And
to be here.
I'm psyched to be here, and here we are, still not moving.
Yeah, that's
What are the other cultural experiences at the FA?
you should
Practical.
walk. You should walk as in the movie.
I should what?
He's gonna get lost.
Walk. You should walk the city.
Okay, see you guys.
No, it's okay. So at Jordan Belfi,
At Jordan Belfi.
@Gonis.
@tushai.
See you later.
Suscríbanse.
Suscríbanse al canal. Bye.
Bye guys.